Hi, and welcome to When They Dare to Be Powerful, a podcast series celebrating the legacy of Black women in librarianship. This series highlights the contributing authors and the extraordinary librarians featured in the book, The Legacy of Black Women in Librarianship, edited by Dr. Nicole A. Cooke. Together, these stories honor the brilliance, resilience, and leadership of Black women who have shaped and continue to shape our profession. I'm your host, Dr. Cearra Harris, and in each episode, we center the voices behind this important work, exploring their contributions, their scholarship, and the lasting impact of the women they uplift. Each conversation in this series offers an opportunity to reflect on legacy, what it means, how it's built, and why it matters. These stories remind us that Black women have always been powerful forces in librarianship, even when their work went unrecognized or undocumented. But before we dive in, if you haven't already, I encourage you to grab a copy of the book. It's an essential read for librarians, information professionals, scholars, and anyone committed to preserving and honoring our collective history. On today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking with Miss Taina Evans. Miss Evans highlights the legacy of Dr. Lucille C. Thomas in their chapter. Taina Evans is a seasoned librarian executive with over 18 years of leadership experience at Brooklyn Public Library. She currently serves as the regional director of the Flatbush region, where she oversees operations across 10 branches and manages a team of more than 120 staff. Her expertise spans workforce planning, talent development, and leading complex operational transitions. A nationally recognized thought leader, Taina has successfully launched borough-wide community service-centered service models that advance diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives and drive meaningful social impact. She is known for building strategic partnerships with elected officials and community stakeholders to expand access to inclusive resources and virtual programming, particularly for vulnerable populations. I am so excited to share this conversation with you all. Taina drops so many gems, and she's just such a delight to speak with. So here is my conversation with Miss Taina Evans. Evans, thank you so much for joining me today. Today, we're talking all about your chapter and When They Dare to Be Powerful. Let's start off with learning a little bit about you, though. So, can you talk to me a bit about your background?
Yes, my name is Taina Evans, and I am currently a regional director at Brooklyn Public Library. And ideally, what that means is that I oversee 10 to 11 locations within a 62 system-wide library system, part of Brooklyn Public Library, to support managers to kind of create programs and services that is unique and ideal to that specific community. I've been doing this role for about 6 years, but I've been at the library for 18 years, starting getting my degree from St. John's University and continuing on to this path. I'm an adjunct professor at the same institution, St. John's University, teaching library and informational studies. I am also current RUSA, the Reference and User Services Association, a part of ALA. I am the current secretary for that division. I'm also an ALA Life member, and I'm last but not least, I am the president of the New York Black Librarian Caucus, which is an affiliate of BCALA, the Black Caucus of the American Library Association.
So you are very busy. Very meaningful things, though, for the field. So we thank you for that. So what inspired you to participate in this collective body of work?
Okay, so what inspired me to participate was ideally the opportunity to observe and honor and preserve the legacy of someone who was near and dear to me, even though her accomplishments preceded my even knowledge and even introduction to Dr. Lucille Cole Thomas. She was at that time, she was a trustee for Brooklyn Public Library, but everyone was like, Dr. Lucille, Dr. Lucille Thomas is here. And, my chapter talks at length about the entire catalog of accomplishments and awards that she received in the profession. But one of the notable things is that she was the first Black African American woman and American actually to lead the New York Library Association. And she was also the founder of School Library Month, right? So with those many accomplishments, and then her being right here in New York State, I just thought, why not jump at this opportunity to honor her in the book. And I also received a blessing from her family as well, because she did pass away in 2019. I was able to actually go to the memorial service. And so, it was kind of like a full circle moment. And I just thought, what a wonderful opportunity to infuse, my admiration for what she did, but also to preserve what she has done, and then some.
That's wonderful. And I see the parallels in the work that you currently do and the work that she did. So I know that's been very inspiring. And receiving the blessing from her family, it just shows how meaningful this book chapter is and her legacy is, not to just you, her family, but to New York as a whole. So you knew a bit about, or you knew a lot about her before you went into writing the chapter, but I know you had to conduct a lot of research to write a chapter as beautifully as you did. Did anything in your studying of her whole history just jump out and surprise you? Was there something you didn't know?
There were so much that I did not know. I didn't realize that she served in there's like maybe I want to say 12 organizations. She was on ALA Council. She also was a part of the Association for Library Trustees and Advocates. She served on ALSC. She served. ALSC still exists, but LAMA doesn't, which is the Leadership and Management Association. One of the key things is some of the legislation that she also introduced as well. So she, in '85, right? Like she went to the U.S. Capitol to, talk about school libraries and school media centers, and that's when she created at that time School Library Week before expanding to School Library Month. She also was a part of IFLA, so the International Federation of Library Association, and she really went, I think she traveled internationally under the George H.W. Bush administration. So she was also part of UNESCO. She also received an honorary, ALA bestowed upon her, like an honorary, not a degree, but an honorary designation.
Mhm.
Um, and so, yeah, there's like so much more. Like she worked in the aftermath of the World Trade Center. Like it was even a lot more than I was aware of. And even her appointment, she was appointed in '93 to the board of Brooklyn Public Library by then Mayor David Dinkins. And I know we're leading into a new administration now, so it's just like you never know, how long someone legacy or like even just a simple appointment, you never know like what that seed can do and how you can take that position and take that entrusted by elected officials, by administration, by government agencies to really push the profession forward.
That's what I'm curious your thoughts on now that you have done this research, you know so much about her, you preserved her story so beautifully in the book. What do you think her legacy means to our profession today and looking ahead?
What I think, just by the research that I did, I think the legacy really is to use literature as a reflective heritage, but more so now in school libraries. I think with the unprecedented amount of book bans that we are seeing in schools, and now even so ever expanding to academic institutions or like colleges, campuses, I think this chapter, like all the work, like all the legwork that was put in 83 or 85 just to get to this point. We can't stop that work. um, Dr. Lucille really was championing things that I don't want to say that we have taken it for granted, right? But that was just common practice. Like you don't challenge a book when we stand on the freedom, the Library of Information Act, the freedom to read. We stand on the freedom to read and the ALA Act, the Library Bill of Rights. That's what I was getting tongue tied on. And when it's challenged, where do we position ourselves? How do we see ourselves in leader in that involvement? And so, again, in so many ALA annual conferences, she was talking about the importance of that, to have an unstinted contribution to children and young adults, because they are the future, right? They are the legacy. And so, should we take on this fight, and how long are we willing to take on this fight to make sure that we get the right book to the right reader? Especially in schools, work that are so transformative to the lives of young people, and to their local communities. Because, when you have a learned and stable foundation, when you have a good book, the world opens up. It opens up so many doors, as we know in our profession.
I think you stated that beautifully. So our goal is to encourage readers to pick up the book and to read your chapter, which is chapter 15. It's amazing. What is one central message, or how do you want readers to feel after reading your chapter?
Oh gosh, I want people to feel that Dr. Lucille's goals were aligned in making a positive image for libraries and librarians on a state, national, and international level. I want them to feel encouraged that, if you're going through maybe a bad patron, or maybe it was just like a hard day, like that every person in the state that they're serving can have access to library resources and services, that to be encouraged, that you're part of a cooperative effort, that the intellectual freedom and due process committees are working in our favor, to participate in so many committee work. I think one of the things that Dr. Lucille also did in being like the president of the New York Library Association, and being the president of the school library, association, to also being a part of, in her time, a Black Greek letter organization, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, and being first. Um, Her chapter, or I guess a New York City chapter of the AKAs, bestowed painting, a monumental painting that is now available at Brooklyn Public Library, and they have commissioned it. And so, because she did so much involvement, and not only was she involved, like I said, in a lot of the committees and a lot of the associations, and also being a part of her sorority, but again, she went to UNESCO, she went to the United Nations, she went to the International Association of School Librarianship. So it wasn't just a fight of literacy in your local home state or in your local country, but she went worldwide as a formidable force against illiteracy. So if you get anything out of my chapter, just success leads clues, and there's a lot of breadcrumbs that you can follow and so many paths that you can follow. I didn't even touch on how she was as a member of the board of trustees, right? In order to leave your legacy in librarianship.
That is beautiful. I think you're setting up an amazing legacy to leave behind, and you are having an amazing impact on your community and all the work that you're doing in New York. So, as librarians, we're always looking behind us to know where we come from, but we also are looking ahead to see how we can continue to push the field forward and how we can stay on trend and continue to evolve. So, I'm curious, as we close, what are you looking ahead for in our profession, especially with emerging Black women who are becoming information professionals and librarians. So, what is your hope for the future for us?
It's so interesting that you asked that, because I think about the title, right? When you dare, right? You know, what I hope is that Black women dare to push the grain against this misinformation. I think we're at an age where artificial intelligence have unfortunately replaced the role, I think, of 300,000 Black women in other industries, right? And I want us to dare to push past that. We are so smart. We have a crown over our head. We are renowned researchers. We are the most educated. We, as African American women, are the most educated in this country. We have so many formidable degrees. We have exhibited and proved and demonstrated our worth. We need to know it for ourselves, right? And I think we're in a perfect position to make policies that align and recognizing, um, or at least creating the conceptual framework for library services that really speaks to diverse populations and ethnicity, because we have been in a position where we were disenfranchised ourselves and we have pushed past that. So no matter what new technologies is coming our way, I think, I feel like there's a resilience in Black women. But what I hope for us to do is, really be part of creating new frameworks in the 21st century. We have like new challenges, and I think we are adept to create those solutions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ms. Evans, for spending some time with me today. We want to encourage readers to pick up When They Dare to Be Powerful. Read every chapter of the book, but especially read chapter 15 on Dr. Lucille C. Thomas. Thank you so much. Your research matters, the work that you're doing in New York matters, and we're just proud to have you a part of this collective.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate talking with you and talking to those who are listening.
I want to send a special thank you to Ms. Taina Evans again for their meaningful contributions to the legacy of Black women in librarianship. This work is powerful, necessary, and deeply affirming, and we are a better as a profession because of people like you. If you haven't done so already, really, what are you waiting on? Grab a copy of the book today and spend time with these stories. They deserve to be read, remembered, and shared. Thank you for listening to another episode of When They Dare to Be Powerful. I'm Dr. Cearra Harris, and I'll catch you in the next one.